Turn on any news network during an election year, and you will see anchors standing in front of giant screens, delivering precise numbers down to the decimal point. It looks like an exact science. This pie chart represents the entire global market research industry. You might expect social and political polling to take up a massive slice, but it rapidly shrinks down to isolate a tiny sliver, accounting for only about 2% of total industry revenue. Despite its small footprint, the public demands absolute perfection from that 2%. We look at these numbers and expect a crystal ball that can perfectly predict the future. But a poll cannot see the future. It is a fragile snapshot taken at a single moment in time, attempting to freeze something as chaotic and fluid as human voting intentions. When an entire nation treats these snapshots as absolute gospel, the traditional systems used to gather them begin buckling under the pressure. Because the stakes of national elections are so high, a polling failure misrepresents the public and actively misleads them. Finding a truly representative sample of human beings is difficult. Face-to-face interviews are slow, and public lists of mobile phone numbers are often incomplete. To solve this, researchers have largely shifted to online recruited panels. This creates an immediate selection bias. An exhausted blue-collar worker coming home after a long shift is likely to ignore a survey request. A college student eager for a small financial reward is much more likely to click yes. Look at this grid. When a poll request goes out online, 99 out of 100 go dark. To compensate, researchers use weighting, stretching that single respondent's data to artificially speak for millions they have never met. A poll's accuracy is a mathematical illusion. It is entirely dependent on the specific types of personalities who choose to answer a survey in the first place. Then you add human unpredictability. Millions of swing voters enter the final days undecided, making their choice at the last possible second, long after the polling snapshot was taken. And then there are the voters who deliberately hide their true intentions from pollsters, a phenomenon known as the shy voter. We saw this hidden variable skew the data heavily in the 2020 U.S. election, resulting in a significant underreporting of support for Donald Trump. Algorithms and spreadsheets can only count the answers they are given. If voters lie, hide, or change their minds, the math fails. To figure out what the raw numbers are missing, researchers have to pivot away from spreadsheets and look at qualitative methods. By skipping rigid questionnaires and sitting down face-to-face in small focus groups, a moderator can test hypotheses, read body language, and listen to the reasoning behind a choice. Tony Blair's government utilized these small group sessions between 1997 and 2001 to understand the electorate's mindset and craft specific policies. But a focus group has its own mathematical weakness. It can tell you exactly why a room full of people feels a certain way, but it completely lacks the scale to prove how many voters nationwide share that feeling. Human empathy and subtle nuance provide the context that helps stabilize the easily skewed math of traditional polling. Today, there is a third approach trying to bridge the gap between slow polls and tiny focus groups, scraping the avalanche of digital information on social media and Google Trends. Researchers use specialized text analysis tools to monitor platforms like Twitter and Facebook. They track specific keywords to gauge real-time positive or negative sentiment as it happens. The caveats here are significant. This method ignores anyone who isn't posting online, and the people who do post tend to rely heavily on hyperbole. Worse, these scraping algorithms are literal. They are currently unable to reliably identify human sarcasm, context, or subtle nuance in a post. Monitoring the digital pulse is fast and inexpensive, but it runs the risk of measuring only the loudest voices rather than the most representative ones. No single methodology is capable of flawlessly predicting public opinion. Accurately reading a society still requires the wide, rigid mathematical net of quantitative polling, but that rigid math must be combined with the deep, empathetic nuance that you can only get from sitting down with a focus group. By taking the scale of polling, adding the depth of focus groups, and merging them with the speed of the digital pulse, we find a center point of intersection. Truth in market research isn't found in a single perfect number, but in the intersection of these three imperfect lenses.